Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost for the club, everybody involved in the club, it's a great moment. It's going to be a great night. It's something that we've set our aspirations for in the beginning of the season, and it's really, it's a really great, I would say, feeling and buzz inside our whole organization, top to bottom, commercial side, everybody. It's a kind of a unique opportunity where everybody comes for one. With the opportunity to earn our way into a final, which gets us one step closer to trying to lift the trophy here. So that's our full focus as the team. In terms of Philadelphia, yeah, you're looking at a really well-coached team, almost like a well-oiled machine, right? Great depth in their squad, very clear ideas on what they want to do with and without the ball, very consistent across the whole season, both in MLS play and Open Cup. We've had the opportunity to play them twice, and we're expecting a really competitive game at Geodis, where we hope to get as much fan support as we can, because we know that when we get that place rocking, it's a difficult place for the opponent to play.
Thanks, Coach. You played really well against Philly this year. What about the match was been good for you guys?
No, I think you see two teams that have some similarities in the way that they want to play. And two teams that like to compete and play with intensity, and I think that brings out the best out of both of us. And both games were different situations and sort of scenarios. And again, I think when you put everything on the line in a semifinal kind of win or go home type of mentality, you're going to see the best performance from each team.
And I don't know what your lineup is going to be, but Gaston seems to be emerging more and more in your lineup, and coming off of the MVP performance that he had last year. Is he a guy you lean on at this point of the year to help propel this team forward, both in this tournament and in the MLS?
Yeah, certainly you see Gaston's qualities, right? He's a guy that can play multiple passes, play balls behind the back line, really open up teams. So I think that's been his qualities for a long time. And then you have the mentality of that he's played in big games. He's played in big games. He's performed in big games. So of course, it's not just Gaston. We have a lot of guys that are here, have come in, that have played in big games, and yeah, you have to rely on those experiences. There's a lot of expect the unexpected in games like this, and when you can fall back on past experiences, it helps you kind of stay level-headed.
BJ, I guess it's been 13, going on 14 months since you stepped in here, and where the team was at that point to being at this place, two wins away from silverware. Can you speak to how far they've come, and maybe it's not the full vision at this point, but pretty good steps in the last year?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we came in, there was a lot of good here. We wanted to build upon that. You have to give a lot of credit to the players that are here, that have put in the work and the togetherness that they show, and the commitment to putting in consistent performances. And most importantly, we're all proud in this organization. It's that kind of doing what you say you want to do, and when you want to go after trophies, we've put ourselves in position to do it, and that's what we're really proud about. But the job's not finished. We have to be able to step up on Tuesday night and perform.
And along those lines, you balance a very busy calendar and lineups through different competitions and where maybe focuses are at different points of the calendar. But now you get to this point, and you're literally 2 wins away from that first trophy. How does the intensity raise and maybe the focus increase when you get to the semifinal level of Open Cup?
Yeah, I mean, the Open Cup is just again, I said it from the beginning, it's something that we take serious. It's a historical tournament, the oldest trophy in the country, and for us to have an opportunity to lift that and put our name on that, that's motivating. It's something that we've talked about, how it can be historical, and but we have Philadelphia in front of us to even just get to the final. So the full focus is there. The focus is there to make sure that everybody's prepared to play the role that they're called upon to try and get the result.
Jacob.
BJ, the Open Cup is one of 3 trophies that you're still, in the running for at this point in the year. I guess, how helpful is it to have, these single elimination Open Cup games, so close to the playoffs in October?
I mean, I think anytime you can get experience playing in big games and pressure games, then that's going to make your team stronger. And so we relish every opportunity to get those get those moments. And we know Tuesday night will be a big game feel, and we expect to be able to compete at the highest level.
And Johnny Perez, I know, came off after 20 minutes against Cincinnati. I guess what is his maybe status for Tuesday?
Yes, we don't have it's a quad. With quad injuries, you have to wait a little bit to get, I would say, a formal diagnosis. But he'll get some imaging, and we'll have sort of a clearer picture to give you.
BJ, you already stated that these teams are very intense and they're similar in the way they play. If the game was to stalemate into a defensive battle there in the middle, do you think your team has more advantages than they do?
No, I think we've shown across this season that we can play in different ways. It's something that we take pride in, that we're adaptable. I think we have good ideas in different phases of play. So, however the game plays out, we think that we at least are prepared and have had experiences across the regular season and the Open Cup to be able to try to exploit opportunities in whatever phase kind of presents itself as maybe that moment.
Now, how difficult it is to incorporate any quick lessons that you might have learned from Saturday's game into this game with such a short time?
Yeah, obviously there's not a lot of training on the field, so we spend more time in the video room, but we certainly addressed and reviewed the Cincinnati game. So to kind of close it before we move on. We have to always look back. We always have to take the learning moments from those games because they could be critical to the next match. So, we were able to spend some time with the team to do that, and now, move forward.
The results haven't been there recently. What is the mood in the locker room, and what are you and your staff doing to affect that? Yes.
I think when you talk about the mood, it's fully focused. I think the guys, we're not a team that goes up and down emotionally with results. We stay pretty anchored to the middle line. We understand we have a good way of working here. So I think you see really a professional mentality, and we understand how much this Open Cup semifinal means. So full focus on there. From the coaching staff, we continue to try and simplify everything as easy as we can. So because we know when the players have that clear roles and responsibilities, they'll be able to express themselves and execute.
Knowing this is a one-off match that's coming up tomorrow, Philadelphia goes to Vancouver and have not a great result, and then you guys go to Cincinnati and kind of have that last-minute thing. How much does that affect tomorrow's game, or is it just a clean slate because it's a one-off match?
Yeah, I think you see in our business, you're able to compartmentalize things, and I don't think there's much effect, or you're going to take much from Saturday night's results for either team as having an impact on the type of performance you're going to see on Tuesday night by both teams. I think we're all been in this game long enough that you can put things aside and you can focus everything on trying to get one win. That's all you're looking for to move on.
Yeah, Alex and Jason missed, I guess, the Cincinnati game. It looked like with illness. How are they doing before tomorrow? And I guess, are there any concerns that of other guys being impacted with something similar?
They're both back in full team training. They actually were able to train on Saturday when we were in Cincinnati. It was obviously out of some, I would say, more precaution to lead you to the second part of that question is to try to mitigate anything that spreads. And so far, there's nothing to report from that.
And then I asked Patrick a similar question, but it feels like you came in and installed kind of like a top-down vision of kind of the club from Nashville to Huntsville to the academy. Obviously, winning trophies is a huge part of that. How important would getting the first trophy be, not just to kind of validate the work that's already gone into it, but kind of to springboard future success?
Yeah, for us, we're in the winning business. So, I think it's about that's what we compete for. And, for us, yes, the bigger picture is, Nashville 2.0. How can we align all of our properties so that, we're benefiting everybody that's inside our ecosystem. But at the same time, this group that we have here deserves the respect that we are about, winning this trophy for the first team and for the club. And we talk about writing chapter 6, and this is another sort of piece of that story that this group, who the 2025 team's contribution to the club is, and that's kind of how that's what we're focused on right now.
Any other questions, guys?
BJ, Patrick talked about how valuable home field can be and how good the Castle can be. And we've seen over time some of the best matches there and atmospheres have been in these one-off knockout style games. How big of an advantage can being at home tomorrow night be, and how much does the crowd hopefully need to help you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think we know that we play well at home, not only historically, but this year too. We have a team that we've built that is embodying the spirit of the city, and so yeah, the more people that show up to these games, the louder and more intense that stadium is. It's a help for us, and it's difficult for the opponent to play. So they play a huge role in everything we do. And then when you magnify it with a knockout game that could go 120 minutes, you have to be prepared for that. When you need to sort of dig a little deep and get that hand on the back of your shoulders there to push you a little bit further, it's nice to have that home crowd behind you.
All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, obviously a great opportunity for the club to write ourselves in a bit of history in our first semi-final in the Open Cup, and to go out and give a good performance and hopefully, I guess, qualify. That's the end goal. But really excited for the opportunity. The US Open Cup, I've learned, has a lot of history in this country, and something that the team is really relishing for tomorrow, to go out there against Philly and kind of just make the most of the opportunity and bring us one step closer to some silverware.
Thanks, Patrick. We'll start with Corey and kind of go down the line and ask two of you.
Philly's really good, and you guys have fared really well against them this year. What about the matchup has been so good for you guys?
Yeah, I think we're a team with similar qualities. We both have had a good season so far, and we both play very direct, but also can play between the lines and create a lot of chances. And both high-scoring teams. You can see that when we played each other first, it was an eventful game, and obviously playing at home when we went down, it kind of changed the outcome of the game a little bit. But obviously a team that we're really excited to play, a team that we match up well against, but we know it's going to take everything to get a result. So just really, really excited to see what they've got. But I think the most important thing for us is just worrying about the way we're gonna play, and hopefully getting some goals, because that's what's going to win the game.
And usually in these games, BJ's got to manage the roster because you've got more games to play in the MLS.
Yeah.
What's the key when you've got so many new players on there, still being able to start fast?
Yeah, I think that's a massive thing. Also, I know in the Cup there's a smaller bench as well, so he's got to reduce the amount of matchday players. But I think as a club and as like a DNA, we've all got a very clear way in which we want to play. So it doesn't matter who's going to be on the field; they know what's expected of them, and if they're not giving what is expected, you let them know. So it's important that everyone's aware of their role and studying and learning, what's ahead of us. And I'm very confident that whatever lineup he puts out tomorrow night, they'll do the job.
Steve.
You talk about balancing the various competitions you guys are in, but now you're this close. You're 2 wins away. How does the intensity change, and how much are you guys talking about the opportunity to make history, as you said?
Yeah, I feel like the further you go in kind of cups, it becomes less about performance, more about results. If you look at it like let's say an MLS league, you tend to, if you lose a game, it's okay. If you play well, but you lose a game, it's like you can take the positives out of it. Obviously, if we go out tomorrow night and have an unbelievable performance and don't get the result, it's irrelevant. So I guess it's about finding a fine line between results and performance. We're willing to do whatever it takes to get the results, whilst not compromising our performance. So I think it's about, like I said, just making sure we're walking that fine line in doing everything we can to win, but the Nashville way.
Some of the best environments at Geodis Park over the years have come in some of these knockout type matches. Tomorrow night you have the opportunity to punch a ticket to a final inside the Castle. How much do you need to take advantage of your familiar surroundings and the crowd behind you?
It's a massive advantage being at home, and we've got to make the most of that. I think it'd be nice to see a really good turnout tomorrow night. Geodis, when it's on, is an unbelievable stadium and an unbelievable atmosphere. I've really enjoyed the games where the crowd has really gotten involved and it's been intense, and you've seen the progression of the atmosphere as the season's gone on, which is great. But yeah, obviously having that home ground advantage is something that we need to use, and I'm really excited to see what the fans are going to give us tomorrow night, that 12th man kind of mentality.
Jacob.
Yeah, Patrick, when you came to MLS, to Nashville, how long did it take you to grasp maybe the importance in the history of the U.S. Open Cup?
Yeah, obviously last year I didn't even know it was a thing, to be honest, because we didn't play in it. But as obviously this year's gone on, having missed out on the Leagues Cup, it just makes you realise how much more important it is for obviously the clubs that aren't involved in the Leagues Cup to have the opportunity to win some more silverware and be involved in a knockout tournament, because they're very exciting formats. You know, the idea of if you lose, you're out is very thrilling, and obviously it's such an amazing opportunity for us as well to get our hands on not one silverware but also one of those CONCACAF allocations. So, you know, regardless of the location or the team we're versing, it's just like a massive opportunity to be in a semi-final. So that's something that's, you know, a privilege.
You know, you come into this match having lost 4 of your last 5 in MLS. Do you kind of see this game as maybe a little bit of a blank slate with, you know, those maybe results in MLS not mattering as much?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, like I said earlier, it doesn't really matter about performance. The only thing that matters here is the result, and that's obviously coming into the end of the season. That is something that's very, very true. But like I said, you know, it is a blank slate. Or like you said, it is a blank slate in a sense. But we're going to go out there and try get the result we want whilst not compromising our performance. So, you know, really, really looking forward to the opportunity, and it's going to be a fun game.
Right.
Patrick, last time you played against Philly here, you came out with about 90% over passing accuracy. I mean, that's kind of difficult, very difficult in any game, especially against a team like Philadelphia. What does it take to have a performance quite like that one?
Yeah, obviously they're a good team. They high press. They're very aggressive. You know, when they lose the ball, they're very quick to win it back, and they can put you under a lot of pressure. So obviously it's about being calm and kind of knowing where your next step is if you do win the ball and where you are on the field. But it's also about the team. You know, the structure. You need to have players around you who are going to show for the ball and who are going to, you know, look for the ball when you have it as a midfielder, because it can get a little bit tight in there, especially with the players they have. Lukic is quite aggressive, and John Jarks as well, very, very aggressive midfielders. So yeah, it's just about staying calm and staying patient, and obviously trusting my ability on the ball. And obviously if Eddie's there or Gaston's there, we have a good connection, so being able to find my kind of partner. So yeah, hopefully I can have another performance like that tomorrow night, because I was pretty pleased with that one the last time we versed Philly.
You've played about just about any position there in the midfield. I think except for a left flank. Expecting any switches for tomorrow? Have you started?
I don't know. We'll find out in training today. So if you guys are watching, then you'll see.
You've played with, you mentioned it right there, you've played with 2 different partners for most of the season. So starting off it was Eddie, and then later on it was Gaston. Do you have to switch your game a little bit depending on your partner, and what does that switch look like?
Yes and no. Like obviously, I like to play true to myself. You know, that's what brought me here, and that's why I'm in this team. You know, obviously clubs don't sign players because they're someone else. They sign them for you. So I think that's a kind of component to the way I think. I do trust my ability, and I trust, you know, my style of playing. But obviously, when you do have someone like Eddie, who's just an absolute beast, like defensively, and like can win a lot of second balls, it gives you a bit more of a license to maybe get in the box and go forward. And as well with Gaston too, maybe it means I can take a little bit of a seat in terms of finding that final pass. You know, if I know I can find him, then he has that kind of the vision and the time to kind of look in behind and play those killer balls. So obviously it's maybe rather than adjusting my style of play, it's playing to their strengths too. You know, if I know Eddie can do a job, I can get in the box more, and obviously Gaston's still very good defensively. So yeah, it's fun playing with both of them. They're both great guys, great friends, and great players. So yeah.
And then on, you went to Australia and New Zealand, and had to travel back all the way to the United States, very short time period. What is that toll on you physically, and kind of like, what are you doing to kind of improve that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can have a little bit blocked up. Like that's what happens when you sit 15 hours in a can in the air. So yeah, like it's like 30 hours door to door really when you travel back and forth. And if you look at, I was saying to my girlfriend yesterday, I think I've spent more time in a plane than in my own house, like the last, 2 weeks. So it's okay. Obviously, I'm used to it. I stress to the coaches that I'm completely fine to play. It's something that I've kind of had to deal with the last few years playing national team football. So it is a lot, but you know, I know what it takes: sauna, recovery, massages. You know, it's just about making sure that I'm ready to go. And you know, touch wood, I'm 23, pretty young. You know, I back my body to be able to recover, and yeah, it's obviously they can be a little bit, I'm not going to say conservative, but a little bit less kind of used to the load, and they're just trying to manage my body when it comes to going back and forth. But you know, from my perspective, the expectation is I'm always ready to play, whether I've travelled 50 hours or 0. So yeah.
Yeah, you just mentioned you're 23. You've obviously been in Nashville for a little over a year now. It feels like you've kind of taken on something of a leadership role in the team. I guess what has that been like ahead of a game like Philadelphia? What are you kind of trying to maybe example or model for the adults?
Yeah, obviously I've tried to grow different aspects of my game, and that's one aspect that I've been trying to grow, my leadership qualities, I guess, and had the honour of being the captain against Aston Villa in the second half, which was nice. So that was a cool opportunity. But obviously when BJ talks to us, he's kind of addressing the leaders in the room sometimes, saying like, what are you guys going to bring to the table? And I guess for me, I don't have as much experience as maybe the other leaders, but I think in terms of my personality, I'm pretty out there, pretty outgoing, and I like to be able to kind of drive the boys when it can get a little bit more, scary at times, a bit more uncertain. So I think going into the game, I just got to draw back on my performances against Philly last time. I had 2 good performances. Like to feel like I contributed well in those games, and obviously for me, it's a no regrets kind of mentality. I just want to go into the game with no regrets and come out of it, with a positive mindset. So if I can kind of be infectious with that amongst the team, that'll be good, and obviously give ourselves every chance of just having, the most confident and unbreakable kind of camaraderie and mentality, because I think that's what I kind of give off to the group, and hopefully it kind of reflects in the performance.
And then I know BJ has kind of come in and instilled kind of like a top-down vision of what he wants the club, Huntsville, the academy, everything to look like. But ultimately, like winning silverware is kind of at the top of that. Just how important is it to kind of validate all the work that's gone on for the last year?
Yeah, you can do so much work behind the scenes, but none of it is obviously validated, and none of it is justified without results. You need to get 3 points, you need to be winning, you need to get winning silverware. So obviously, if you look at where we've come from, and I was here, during the lowest part of the club. If you look where we've come from, it's been amazing to see the growth of the club. But obviously, who's to say we can't continue to grow further than what was expected right now? Which is a massive honour and a massive achievement to this day. But yeah, like you said, we need to be getting results, we need to be winning games, we need to be winning silverware. So that's the main objective right now to the end of the season, whether it's as little to as 10, 12, 13 games left. So that's pretty much what our mentality is right now.
Anything else?
You talked about the difference between Gaston and
Eddie.
How much more offensive are you guys with Gaston in the game? I mean, how much does he bring to that?
Yeah, he's a quality player. He's got this unbelievable wand of a right foot, and he really you saw it, I think, in the Cincinnati game. That's probably in my opinion, the best I've seen him play. He was just absolutely pulling strings. But obviously it depends on the opposition too. Some teams might sit in a block and they're going to really make it difficult for us to find balls in behind and find key passes, and that might change things. But obviously when he's on the pitch, it does add an element of, I'm going to say surprise or a bit more directness, because he can take those risks and put him in behind, which is something that I'm trying to work on as well, and something Eddie's trying to incorporate in his game. But like I said, everyone has their strengths, and one of his strengths is definitely balls in behind.
Okay. All right, thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Patrick.